What if the costliest mistakes weren't flukes but patterns? Tonight, we rank 39 head-slappers that changed history, from emperors who outran supplies to ships outrun by ice, bridges that wobbled, companies that laughed at the future. We'll show the exact moment the warning lights blinked red. If pride beats planning, winter and gravity always collect. See why a wooden gift toppled a city's defenses. Hear how one missing unit doomed a Mars mission. Stick around, or repeat their mistakes in glorious slow motion. Napoleon invades Russia in winter, Grand Army frozen out. An empire's pride staggered home as frost-bitten ghosts. In 1812, Napoleon marched east, expecting swift Russian surrender. Instead, scorched earth and distance stretched every wagon and shoe. General Kutuzov retreated, traded space for time and winter. Moscow burned empty, denying supplies and a quick victory. Then the snow arrived like a slow, grinding enemy. Cold seized rifles, horses, and morale faster than any ambush. At Berezina, bridges buckled under panic, ice, and cannon fire. Survivors limped west. Greatness reduced to frozen, shattered columns. Hitler invades the Soviet Union, creates unwinnable two-front war. Germany bled itself dry fighting east and west simultaneously. Operation Barbarossa exploded across borders, aiming for Moscow and oil fields. Early victories bred overconfidence that logistics and mud soon punished. Winter arrived, and troops lacked proper gear or fuel. Meanwhile, Britain held out, and America entered the war. Stalingrad turned triumphal headlines into grinding street-by-street attrition. Two fronts looked bold. They stretched everything dangerously thin. Soviet factories relocated east, rebuilding armies faster than expected. By Kursk and beyond, momentum shifted, then never returned. Titanic ignores ice warnings, plows ahead into disaster. A luxury symbol ended as lifeboats and icy darkness. In the North Atlantic, wireless operators logged repeated ice warnings. Speed held, partly to impress, partly to keep schedule. Lookouts had no binoculars, scanning a moonless, glassy sea. When the berg appeared, there was almost no room. Steel plates buckled, compartments flooded like a slow zipper. Women and children first collided with class and lifeboat math. Nearby ships saw rockets, yet confusion stalled immediate rescue. By dawn, survivors shivered, and the legend began. Trojans wheel the wooden horse inside their city walls. Legend. A proud city fell to a gift nobody properly questioned. After long siege, the Greeks sailed away, or seemed. A massive wooden horse remained, dedicated to supposed divine favor. Priest Laocoon warned, but his fate fueled superstitions instead. By night, hidden warriors climbed out and opened gates. The returning fleet surged back, striking a sleeping city. Is it history or literature? The ruins whisper both. Names like Odysseus survive because the story explains defeat. Either way, the warning lands. Question convenient miracles. The charge of the Light Brigade, cavalry sent into cannons. Hundreds rode into a valley, and few rode back. At Balaclava, orders muddled. Targets misread across the hills. Lord Cardigan led straight down a gun-lined corridor. Russian batteries pounded flanks while sabers chased wrong objectives. Why charge light cavalry at prepared artillery in daylight? Because confusion multiplies when pride outruns clear communication. Survivors described smoke, splinters, and horses collapsing mid-gallop. Nearby, heavy cavalry waited, but coordination never truly clicked. The valley kept the echoes longer than the cheers. Chernobyl's safety test bypasses safeties. Reactor blows apart. A test meant for safety ended with a reactor explosion. Near Pripyat, operators disabled protections to simulate power loss. The RBMK design had quirks, including risky low-power instability. Graphite-tipped rods briefly spiked reactivity during emergency shutdown. Then, the lids lifted, and the building roof shattered. Firefighters climbed into glowing debris, unaware of invisible doses. If alarms feel annoying, imagine silence after they fail. Helicopters dropped sand and boron over the open core. The zone still teaches humility about complex, coupled systems. Challenger launched in freezing cold despite O-ring warnings. A bright morning broke apart seconds after liftoff on television. Florida was cold, and rubber seals hardened when chilled. Engineers voiced concerns. Decision-makers faced schedule and pressure. The booster joint failed, and flame pierced the external tank. Pieces arced across sky. Challenger launched in freezing cold despite O-ring warnings. A bright morning broke apart seconds after liftoff on television. Maginot Line faces east. Germany simply goes around it. France's fortress wall stood solid while tanks drove around. Concrete casemates guarded borders, especially facing the German frontier. But planners discounted the Ardennes as impassable forest terrain. Guderian's panzers punched through Luxembourg and Belgium with speed. Communications lagged, reserves moved slow, and counterattacks misaligned. A fortress without flanks is a castle on wheels. The breakthrough at Sedan unhinged positions along the line. Armored columns raced to the coast, trapping Allied forces. The strongest bunkers mattered less than the weakest assumptions. Hindenburg filled with hydrogen, airship era goes up in flames. An airship's grand arrival became a fiery, collapsing frame. At Lakehurst, the Zeppelin approached mooring lines after delays. Storms shifted, and static likely built across the envelope. A spark ignited leaking hydrogen, and flames raced aft. Crew dropped ballast and passengers, trying to lower quickly. Radio broadcasts captured shock as the structure buckled. Could helium have changed the story? Politics denied exports. Photos cemented caution toward giant hydrogen-lifted passenger craft. By evening, the dream felt older than the wreckage. Mars Climate Orbiter lost mixing metric and imperial units. A $125 million probe vanished because numbers spoke different languages. Lockheed outputs used pounds. NASA navigation expected newtons. The mismatch nudged trajectories until Mars gravity swallowed it. No explosion, just silence where signals should have been. Unit errors weren't trivial. They cascaded through navigation software. Teams assumed standards that weren't actually standardized across contractors. Reviews afterward added checks and shared reference conversions. Space is unforgiving when small errors multiply through software. One tiny mismatch, and the planet keeps its secrets. New Coke replaces Classic. Consumers revolt. Brand backtracks. A beloved soda returned after fans loudly rejected change. Taste tests suggested sweeter won. Real-world loyalty said otherwise. In stores, nostalgia and identity overpowered sip-by-sip comparisons. Phone lines flooded. Competitors mocked. Headlines wrote the story. Was it a marketing masterstroke? Most insiders deny that. Bottlers scrambled as two formulas fought for shelf space. Loyalists hoarded cans like artifacts from another era. Within months, Coca-Cola Classic returned, stabilizing a wobbly narrative. Sometimes the recipe isn't flavor, it's memory and ritual. Blockbuster laughs off Netflix buyout offer, misses streaming future. A video rental giant missed the mail and streaming wave. Executives reportedly chuckled at buying a tiny DVD-by-mail startup. Late fees angered customers just as convenience shifted online. Netflix built recommendation algorithms, while stores negotiated real estate. When bandwidth improved, movies clicked without driving anywhere. If your moat is location, the internet lowers water. Blockbuster tried copying later, but debt chained every pivot. Stores dimmed, and blue tickets turned into bankruptcy filings. The red envelope outlasted the bright neon storefront. Decca Records rejects the Beatles. Guitar groups are out. A label passed, and pop culture pivoted without them. In London, a demo session failed to spark immediate enthusiasm. Executives favored safer acts, underestimating songwriting and charisma. Soon after, another label heard potential and signed quickly. How many careers hinge on 20 minutes in a room? Touring refined their sound. Singles exploded across radio. The first pass became the industry's most famous miss. Meanwhile, the supposed trend faded, and guitars kept ringing. Rejections sometimes sharpen edges that later cut through. Kodak invents digital camera, then shelves it for film. A company built the future, then hid it behind film. Engineer Steven Sasson assembled a clunky digital prototype around 1975. Images saved to tape. Quality was crude but promising. Corporate calculus protected profitable chemicals, paper, and processing. Meanwhile, pixels kept improving as sensors shrank and cheapened. If you ignore your prototype, competitors won't ignore it. Point-and-shoots exploded. Then phones absorbed that entire category. Kodak pivoted late toward printers, patents, and restructuring. The photo album moved, and the lab counter emptied. AOL-Time Warner megamerger-record value destroyed in years. The biggest media marriage quickly became a cautionary breakup. At peak bubble, dial-up hype met old-line media optimism. Cultures clashed over pace, content, and corporate control. Advertising expectations collapsed when the tech market deflated. Shareholders watched value evaporate through write-downs and exits. Did anyone truly know who was driving the car? Acquisitions work better when synergies exist beyond slogans. Eventually, the brands untangled, smaller, and far more cautious. A headline merger shrank into footnotes about mismatched timing. Tulip mania inflates and pops. Fortunes lost on flower bulbs. Prices for flowers soared, then sank like stones. In the Netherlands, traders flipped contracts for rare bulbs. Speculation separated paper promises from actual planted stock. Auctions buzzed in taverns, while fortunes changed overnight. When confidence cracked, buyers vanished and deals unraveled. Speculation is helium. Euphoria lifts until reality punctures. Courts later softened obligations, complicating recovery and blame. The bulb kept blooming. The bubble never did. Speculation feels warm until somebody opens a window. South Sea bubble hype crashes, investors left holding nothing. A grand promise collapsed into angry committees and ruined fortunes. In Britain, a company sold dreams of monopoly trade. Stocks soared as pamphlets praised schemes and subscriptions. Insiders took profits. Latecomers found air where value belonged. Parliament investigated, named scapegoats, and tightened policies afterward. One share became an unpaid lifetime lesson for many. If insiders whisper certainty, expect risk hiding behind velvet. Other companies copied, then toppled as confidence evaporated. The ledger ink dried faster than the promised riches. Vasa warship top-heavy capsizes minutes into maiden voyage. A royal flagship sank within sight of cheering crowds. In Stockholm, builders stuffed 2 gun decks onto slim beams. Test rolls reportedly alarmed crews, yet the launch continued. A gust filled sails, and water poured through open ports. Ballast proved insufficient for the ornate, towering hull. Who argues with a deadline from impatient royalty? Divers later salvaged cannons and preserved remarkable woodwork. Today, the museum ship shows mistakes frozen in time. Stability isn't decorative, even when carvings glitter like crowns. Ever Given wedges in Suez, global trade jammed for days. One container ship paused billions of dollars like a switch. In Egypt, wind and bank effect shoved the bow aground. Satellite maps turned into memes tracking a very stuck arrow. Excavators nibbled sand while tugboats strained at angles. Each day delayed shipments, schedules, and factory assembly lines. If a canal is narrow, patience must be wider. Salvers lightened ballast and caught a favorable high tide. Finally, the stern swung free, and horns celebrated everywhere. Weeks later, lawsuits argued while hashtags slowly faded. Gallipoli landings, misplanned, Anzac blood for little gain. A bold amphibious plan stalled into months of trench stalemate. Allied forces aimed to force the Dardanelles and supply Russia. Landings hit steep ridges, scrub, and well-sighted Ottoman guns. Maps misled. Currents shifted boats onto tougher beaches. Mustafa Kemal rallied defenders, counterattacking before lines solidified. Casualties mounted while heat, flies, and disease compounded misery. Maps changed slower than the casualty lists changed numbers. Evacuation eventually succeeded, ironically the campaign's cleanest operation. Afterward, legends grew, but the straits remained closed. Operation Market Garden, one bridge too far in Holland. A rapid thrust stalled short of the final Rhine bridge. Airborne divisions seized crossings, expecting armor to link quickly. Roads narrowed atop dikes, channeling columns into ambushes. At Arnhem, paratroopers held out while radios failed repeatedly. Intelligence underestimated nearby armored units refitting around Arnhem. If timing slips, separate victories stop adding up. Relief columns faced blown bridges, mines, and resilient resistance. Commanders debated pressing on versus consolidating exhausted gains. The corridor closed, and momentum shifted back to defense. Bay of Pigs invasion. Cuban exiles abandoned on the beach. An amphibious landing crumpled under airstrikes and missing support. Brigade 2506 landed expecting uprisings and sustained American backing. Air cover was reduced, then canceled amid political calculations. Cuban forces rallied quickly, surrounding beaches and supply points. Radio broadcasts blared, erasing hopes of quiet momentum. Promises wobbled, and plans folded faster than landing craft. Pilots pressed dangerous missions that arrived too late. Within days, prisoners marched while leaders reassessed strategies. The shoreline kept souvenirs of ambition meeting reality. Pickett's charge at Gettysburg. Infantry march into artillery. A mile of open ground became a killing field quickly. Confederate artillery softened positions. Union guns answered back. Then divisions marched straight through smoke toward a stone wall. Fences slowed lines while cannon and rifles tore gaps. General George Pickett watched brigades disappear into rolling fire. Why gamble on parade ground tactics against entrenched defenders? A few reached the wall. None held it long. Retreat carried wounded back across the same deadly space. Afterward, hopes of Northern victory dimmed for good. Donner Party takes shortcut, becomes a mountain tragedy. A wagon train's shortcut ended in snowbound desperation. Following Hastings' cutoff, delays stacked before the Sierra Nevada. Early storms sealed passes, trapping families at a lake. Supplies dwindled while rescue parties struggled through drifts. Journal entries tracked hunger, arguments, and grim decisions. One shortcut became a maze drawn by mountains. Maps looked tidy. Mountains weren't playing along that winter. Multiple attempts failed before relief finally broke through. By spring, survivors left stories nobody wanted repeated. Franklin Arctic Expedition, canned food, ice, and doom. 2 ships vanished, chasing a passage through uncharted ice. HMS Erebus and Terror sailed north under Sir John Franklin. They wintered in ice. Sledging parties searched without success. Notes found later suggested crews abandoned ships and marched. Lead-soldered cans and illness likely weakened men severely. If the map is blank, Assumptions become dangerous companions. Inuit testimonies pointed rescuers toward scattered relics and camps. Modern searches located wrecks preserved in cold water. Artifacts surfaced slowly, answering questions while raising others. The Leaning Tower of Pisa, foundation misjudged from the start. A bell tower became a landmark because engineers misjudged ground. Soft soil under shallow foundations tilted the structure early. Builders added upper floors leaning back to compensate slightly. Centuries passed while the tilt grew at worrying rates. Tourists posed, locals watched, officials debated urgent stabilization. Engineers later removed soil and anchored foundations carefully. Slow physics demanded slower engineering and patient excavation. The tower survived, now leaning less but still charming. Sometimes a mistake becomes the postcard for centuries. London Millennium Bridge opens, immediately starts swaying. A new footbridge closed 2 days after its grand opening. Crowds stepped on, and the deck began unexpected sideways wobbling. Pedestrians unknowingly synchronized, feeding the oscillation each step. Engineers diagnosed lateral coupling, then designed heavy dampers. Why did walking feel like surfing across the Thames? The fix worked, but the nickname stuck for years. Designs learned faster than opening day crowds preferred a wobble. Reopened, it became a smooth route between landmarks. Sometimes stability needs tuning after the applause fades. Tacoma Narrows Bridge, Galloping Gertie, tears itself apart. A suspension bridge twisted dramatically, then collapsed into water. Winds hit harmonies with the slender deck and cables. Aeroelastic flutter grew, feeding energy back into motion. Drivers abandoned cars while waves of roadway rolled. Sleek wasn't strength here. Stiffness mattered more than grace. After collapse, designs added girders and aerodynamic lessons. Cameras captured motion, making classrooms safer ever since. Engineers later recovered a Cocker Spaniel from a car. The nickname stuck, but the failures did not. Pets.com burns cash on sock puppet, then collapses. A mascot couldn't fix shipping heavy bags below cost. During the dot-com rush, orders grew while losses widened. Warehouses shipped bulky items cheaper than customers paid. Marketing dazzled. Spreadsheets frowned. Investors eventually ran out. How do you scale negatives into profits without margin? Competitors learned faster, trimming catalogs and focusing categories. After layoffs, the domain later redirected elsewhere, quietly. The puppet stayed famous. The business did not. Sometimes charisma can't subsidize physics and freight costs. Quibi spends billions on phone-only shows, shuts down fast. A star-studded startup closed before many trials ended. Short episodes launched exclusively on phones, portrait or landscape. Viewers couldn't screenshot, share, or easily watch on televisions. The pandemic shifted commutes, shrinking captive mobile minutes. Meanwhile, competitors offered libraries and flexible viewing everywhere. If you remove virality, discovery crawls and buzz dies. Despite top talent, few shows became cultural touchstones. Cash burned fast, investors cut losses, founders conceded reality. The phone kept ringing, but nobody answered Quibi. Microsoft buys Nokia phones, writes off multi-billion-dollar bet. A massive acquisition turned into an enormous accounting write-off. Windows Phone chased ecosystems already owned by others. Developers hesitated, splitting effort across small market share. Hardware impressed. App gaps frustrated everyday buyers deeply. Carriers promoted alternatives with easier services and incentives. Platforms need gravity. Without it, planets drift away. Integration took time, while competitors iterated every quarter. Eventually, Microsoft restructured, writing down most of the purchase. Great hardware alone couldn't save a thin ecosystem. MySpace loses to Facebook, fumbles platform and product focus. The largest network ceded the stage to a cleaner rival. Profiles loaded slowly, cluttered with auto-playing music and widgets. Acquired by News Corp, priorities shifted toward ads over polish. Meanwhile, Facebook standardized real names and a tidy feed. Artists loved exposure, but everyday users drifted elsewhere. If friction grows, the path of least resistance wins. Redesigns arrived often, confusing returning visitors and advertisers. Eventually, it pivoted to music, while traffic shrank. The party moved, and the lights slowly dimmed. Yahoo rejects buying Google, then fumbles search leadership. A portal watched search slip away to focused competitors. Early talks about acquisitions came and went without agreements. Home pages stuffed everything, while search needed singular obsession. Later, deals outsourced results, weakening core differentiation. Management turnover clouded priorities and long-term product bets. Be everything, become nothing, users remembered clearly later. Mobile arrived, others executed, momentum kept slipping away. Meanwhile, competitors indexed faster and monetized smarter. The front door lost traffic to a single box. Juicero's $400 juicer, hand-squeezing beats smart press. A high-tech appliance lost to 2 human hands. Packs required subscription, QR codes, and proprietary supply chains. A video showed pouches squeezing easily without the machine. Retailers paused, consumers joked, and investors reconsidered promises. Why buy compression when gravity and fingers work fine? Refunds arrived, plans shrank, leadership stepped aside soon. Startups thrive when hardware enables something impossible otherwise. Here, the impossible part was explaining the value proposition. Smoothies survived. The $400 press did not long. Segway promised to change cities, barely changed the sidewalk. A secretive scooter launched, then found narrow niches. Hype promised reimagined cities. Regulations targeted sidewalk safety. Price tags shocked. Storage and theft complicated daily use. Tour companies adopted. Commuters largely shrugged and walked. So what exactly was it trying to replace? Balanced technology impressed but didn't solve core problems. Meanwhile, bikes, scooters, and transit answered broader needs. Inventor Dean Kamen kept innovating beyond that chapter. Great demo, limited commute, and a cautious public. Fire Festival promises luxury, delivers disaster relief tents. A promised paradise greeted guests with rain-soaked mattresses. On a Bahamian island, stages and catering lagged badly. Influencer promos sold exclusivity. Customs and logistics said otherwise. Flights piled up, buses wandered, wristbands lacked functioning systems. If you overpromise online, reality eventually wants receipts. Catered meals shrank into infamous bread and cheese. Headliners canceled, while attendees searched for basic shelter. Organizers faced charges. Refunds followed messy litigation afterward. The island kept the waves. The branding washed away. Theranos blood testing hype, revealed as fraud in court. A billion-dollar vision ended with convictions and dismantling. Theranos promised dozens of tests from a tiny sample. Behind the scenes, lab devices were often conventional machines. Walgreens pilots touted convenience, while accuracy remained questionable. Journalists and whistleblowers pressed claims. Regulators started inquiries. When health results wobble, the story eventually collapses. Boardroom star power could not validate malfunctioning technology. Trials unpacked emails, demos, and carefully staged presentations. Patients and partners finally heard the real numbers. Lysenkoism in Soviet science, politics over genes, yields collapse. Crops suffered when ideology trumped genetics and evidence. Trofim Lysenko dismissed Mendelian inheritance as bourgeois fabrication. Support from leaders enforced policies across research and farms. Scientists opposing views faced demotions, exile, or worse. Fields planted by decree ignored regional realities and biology. If experiments cannot disagree, failure becomes official doctrine. International genetics advanced, while domestic yields lagged painfully. Eventually, reforms reopened research and rehabilitated banned ideas. The harvest remembers arguments long after speeches fade. Medieval children's crusade marches to nowhere, disputed. Stories say thousands marched, and almost none returned victorious. Accounts describe Nicholas of Cologne and Stephen of Cloyes. They reportedly sought passage, miracles, and a ship to Jerusalem. Some narratives claim betrayal, storms, or sales into slavery. Chroniclers disagreed on numbers, routes, and actual participants. When a tale suits sermons, details often turn pliable. Modern historians question scope, labeling it partially legendary. Still, the image lingers, hope walking toward danger. The truth likely mixed piety, poverty, and rumor.